Well, welcome everybody. I see you're both sitting in front of your paintings, which is outstanding. They look great. And they're larger works, and that's what we're here to talk about. So it seems to me like larger works have become more popular over the past decade. I mean, I remember selling works in the 80s and 90s. Even Warhols were 40 by 40, getting a little bit bigger, but they've become much larger. Do you think that's the case? Let's start with you, Julia.
Well, probably it's not the case in my case, because I don't really follow the trends, but being current means that you're aware of it. For me, working on a larger scale happened rather organically, probably while developing my own voice and subconscious desire to be heard. You know, when you crank the music louder, people pay attention. So, in my opinion, COVID restriction really forced people to stay and to stay home and be internally tuned in. And what I would say is that being confined in certain rooms, in certain homes, interior got a new meaning beside just aesthetics. I think that people realize that it's actually surrounding affects their well-being. So for me, putting a large scale painting creates creates an experience. It's not something because experience, it's exactly what we were stripped of during the COVID, right? We had things, but we didn't have experience. So that's what is a large scale painting presents for me. And I also think that it's an escape. It creates opportunity for people to escape, because the work of that scale is mesmerizing, and it takes time, and it's sometimes you might not see things for a month, and all of a sudden you find a hidden meaning or hidden intricate details. And that's why I think that especially nowadays it's a current direction. At least that's how I feel it's going.
Yeah, very good. How about you, Kathleen? You paint in large scale works. We can see some of them behind you.
Yeah, pretty much exclusively. I think it's a trend I can appreciate, for one, because I not only do large paintings, and it's one that I think is going to continue, because you see all these people that are, especially now, moving out of the city, and they're moving into big houses because they couldn't afford it, considering the rent they were paying in the city. I can speak from personal experience from that. We moved from New York to Raleigh, North Carolina, and we have a lot of big walls to fill out here. And I think people see these big empty walls now, and they want something when people walk into their homes to be this stunning feature piece. And I think we're just going to keep seeing that more and more. And I don't know, I like it because that's what I do.
Yeah, and your work looks good in the larger scale, that's for sure. Yeah, and people want to make a statement with a big piece, you know. Another couple that is on our website and does many of our shows, Angela and Chris Gebhardt, paint in very large scale pieces. In fact, we have one, it's 8 feet by 8 feet. And their success over the last couple of years has really blossomed. And, you know, they're selling their works for $10,000, $20,000, $25,000. So people are paying that kind of money for a big statement piece, which is great.
Mm-hmm. And I personally love the larger pieces. I think they dominate a room and kind of tell, you know, all artwork tells a story. But can you tell us a little bit about some of your favorite large pieces that you've created? Julia, we can start with you.
I can say a bit about this particular artwork. it's called Do Not Look Back, Orpheus. Orpheus is a Greek myth, hero from the Greek myth, right? And I mean, it's a well-known story. When he was tempted to look back and lost the precious wife of his. But for me, it's a little bit more analogy about how we women very often create a mosaic of beautiful memories of stories that happened to us, and we cannot move on. We dwell on it, and sometimes it's a time. Sometimes it's a moment when you have not to look back, not to dwell on the past, and so in this work I created, like, it's lots and lots of textures, and I do acrylic transfer, so it's lots of little details. So my work is really deserves time to observe, but because it has so many shimmering colors and interesting textures and playfulness that you want to look again and again. But it just, for me, it's a reminder that sometimes we stuck on the small details, no matter how beautiful they are. And you have to have a courage to move on. So that's the story about my work. And on top of it, I'm very often affected by audiobooks that I listen. That's what I do. Some people listen to music, I listen to audiobooks and stories, and then in my head there is new stories from the stories.
I love it. And what about you, Kathleen? What is one of your favorite large pieces you've created?
Favorite card. I really tend to fall in love with pretty much everything I create. You know, you're working on these things and you think it's the best thing you've ever done until you do the next one, which is also the best thing you've ever done. But I think this is one of my kind of current favorites. You can see it. It's a 5 foot by 5 foot piece. And it's really fun to work on these large pieces. And I kind of rigged a way to do it that is somewhat unique. I put down these 8 foot long pieces of wood onto kind of a giant lazy Susan, I guess. And I can work on it by spinning it around, and I can get these really fluid circles that way. And a lot of the stuff I do is, well, pretty much everything is, you know, hand drawn, other than the basic layout I'll do with some drafting tools. But it's really hard to say a favorite. There's, oh, hold on, I put this one over here too. This one is a 6 foot by 6 foot over there, that black one. And I actually used all different colors of black. And I know some of it even looks a little bit light, but that's a black wax. So it has different sheens, but I use the as blackest black that we can get right now, because the blackest black is kind of not on the market, but black 3.0, different sheens of black, different textures of black. So I'm kind of going through a moody period, maybe, I don't know. But that one was actually, I was working on that one in the video that you saw before. And that's the finished product on that guy. But like I said, everything I do is very large, and every one of them is kind of my favorite. And I always hate to see them when they sell and go, because it's like giving away.
Yeah. I thought when Hannah asked you that question, what was your favorite piece? You were going to say the last one I sold.
It always is. It always is. Actually, one of the bigger ones that I've done is a 6 foot by 12 foot. And it's kind of 2 6 by 6s, but they go together because it's like kind of a flipped, mirrored, symmetrical image of the other. So you get this just amazing, huge, it needs to be on a, you know, lobby of a grand hotel or something like that, but the bigger the better.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. You know, we had a couple artists that were going to join us today. Risk, who's doing his Austin art exhibit, ironically during the same time, and Alexis Silk is another one of our artists that loves to work in amazingly large pieces, a little bit different of a medium. She's a sculpture glass artist, and she just had her second child, so she couldn't be with us tonight. So she's always pushing the boundaries of what's possible, sculpting freehand while the glass is hot. And we are going to take a second to take a look at her video. And thank you to all of us who were here with us today. It was great to talk to you and see your faces, and love seeing the artwork behind you as well. So for those watching, if you want to visit their booth pages, let them know your favorite piece and even add one to your collection. That would be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.